Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining my SARTcast called Post-Graduation Struggles. I hope everyone's having a great week 7. I know we're close to finals and we're close to graduating for people who are potential seniors, or you're an undergraduate who is also wanting to learn more about what post-graduation depression and anxiety is. So hopefully you guys enjoy the presentation I have today, and we'll get started. So first, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Julia. I am a fourth-year student, and I'm double majoring in social policy and public service. And I'm one of the SART peer consultants here at the Social Science Academic Resource Center. We're going to have more information about Social Science Academic Resource Center later on into the presentation. But for now, we're going to go straight into what our agenda is for today. So for today's agenda of our presentation, we have what is post-graduation depression. So we're going to learn about what it is, the definition of it, and also some of the causes that could contribute to the depression itself, and then maybe some of the symptoms as well, since we're going to see how you can notice if you are experiencing post-graduation depression or someone else is experiencing it, and the vulnerability level. So we're going to see how vulnerable it is for someone to experience post-grad depression and some of the unhealthy coping mechanisms people usually tend to go to when they do experience this. But then also we can learn a little bit more about what the healthy coping mechanisms are and how we can intervene with that, with the unhealthy ones, and then hopefully be able to cope with the depression itself. And then I will be able to provide resources for how you can reach out for further assistance and external resources, either on campus or off campus. So first, you may ask, what is post-graduation depression? I'm sure some people may have a good idea of it, but this is a straightforward definition of what it is. So it's called situational feelings because these are feelings that are caused by the situation, right? You are graduating and you are going out into the real world, so that's already related to a situation. And you may feel feelings of sadness, uncertainty, and fear that graduating students experience when transitioning to working adulthood. So working adulthood means that either you are going into the workforce after you graduate, or you may be applying for grad school during your gap year, whichever one it is. But these are feelings of sadness, uncertainty, and fear that someone may commonly experience when they have post-graduation depression. And then now we're going to go into some of the causes. So obviously there may be more causes than beyond what is in this presentation, but these are the most common ones that people experience when they do have depression, post-graduation depression and anxiety. So the first one is job hunt. So students may lack experience to qualify for high-paying jobs. As students, we do struggle to find internships that are very flexible with our schedule, or we aren't able to have that flexibility to drive to a job or an internship. So there may be some limitations during undergraduate journey that may have limited you into gaining more experience. So once you graduate, you might not have a really strong resume for these high qualifying paying jobs. So then you start to experience some doubt about yourself and some depression and anxiety because you're not qualified for the positions that you want to apply to. So this is a statistic I found as well, is that adults 20 to 24 years old have an unemployment rate of 7.5%, which in reality is pretty high considering that the age range is pretty small, and that most of those adults that are that age is the age that we do tend to graduate with. So when we graduate, it might be like 21, 23, or 24. So then the unemployment rate is pretty high with that. So that could also contribute to your depression and anxiety. The next one is we have social changes. So when you're in college, you are surrounded by a lot of your classmates, your peers, you're very close in proximity to either your roommates or your friends. So it makes it easy for you to ask to hang out or even do study sessions with them. But once you graduate, you may not have that proximity or location anymore with them. And you may move back home that is far away from your college, or you may not be exposed to them as much as anymore. So then when you're losing touch with close college friends, you experience difficulty in rebuilding your social network when you either go home or when you graduate and leave, because you built such a close-knit network into the college that once you leave, you are stuck with maybe not seeing them as much anymore, or maybe you lose touch with them, or they may not be friends, or you're not as close with them anymore. So then you start feeling sad and you start feeling left out, and like you might experience FOMO. And a lot of the times that contributes to depression and anxiety. And then the third one we have is student debt. So fortunately, a lot of our students, when we attend college, you experience debt in loans or debt in other places where you have to receive money to pay for your college. So having money over your head and hang over you is going to lead to like overwhelming stress about paying it off, because there are some interest rates that require you to pay a little bit more after you graduate. So that already puts a lot of pressure in itself, because it coincides with you trying to find a job to essentially pay for yourself and also your debt. So that could contribute to your depression and anxiety. And the last one is comparison to classmates. So I know for some of our students here and graduating seniors, we're already comparing ourselves at such an academic rigorous institution like UCI. But after we graduate, it's also more common to compare ourselves with other people in our class, or anybody that is doing better than you. So a variety of experiences include having like a good job. So maybe if you are still struggling to find a good job, but your friends are in a good workplace and they have a good stable job, then you tend to compare yourself. Or some people might move on to personal milestones, which is like getting married or moving to a new city. And that could also harm your self esteem and also harm some of the social changes that you may experience, because you may not be hitting those social milestones the same as your friends. So all four of these summarized together could contribute to graduation or post-graduation depression and anxiety, but it's not a fixed amount of reasons. There may be more reasons that we may not know about, but these are the most common ones. And then some of the symptoms of post-graduation depression and anxiety is common feelings of guilt, shame, or self-loathing. So you start to feel guilty that you may not be as successful as you wanted to be after graduation, or you start shaming or self-loathing yourself because the degree that you want is not exactly putting you in the position of a career that you're desired, or you're just regretting your decision in the major choice. And then feelings of hopelessness, right? Like you feel like you lost hope into what the future may have could have been or could have like happened. And then you also experience like a lack of motivation. So that could also like go along the lines with like applying to jobs or even putting work into yourself to improve yourself as an applicant, like strengthening your skills or strengthening like your network, right? So it's just a lot of lack of motivation. And then when you tend to feel a lot of anxiety and feelings that lead to depression, you also have sleep issues, right? Because then you start stressing yourself out and thinking like, what can I do after graduation that is not going to like be detrimental to my future? So you start to have these sleep issues, and like then it also impacts your physical and mental health. And then you may experience some brain fog as well. No, the brain fog is basically what you're not able to focus entirely, and you're not able to have like a full attention span to the things that you are doing, because you just feel these feelings of shame or like guilt or hopelessness, and like it's affecting the way you're trying to focus on the present moment. So these are some of the symptoms that you may experience when you're going through post-graduation depression and anxiety. And now we move on to the vulnerability. So a lot of people can experience post-graduation depression and anxiety, but I think it's also important to know what are like the upcoming signs that may produce more vulnerability to somebody who might experience it more than the other person. And so the question is who is the most vulnerable to depression after college? So it would be graduates who do not have a stable job. So this could mean that they don't have a guaranteed job after graduation, like after summer, or they don't have a like a certain guarantee start date for a job. So they're kind of just left wondering, like, do I start applying during the summer or do I apply later? Where, when, and where can I get this job? And also it goes along lines with like having not having a stable plan either. So maybe they're just saying like I'm just going with the flow, and they're not really planning on when and where they're going to apply to put their work experience in, and also not really having a good idea what their future looks like, or just being susceptible to like not having a stable job plan or idea. So then they're more likely to feel depression after college because then events are coming up unexpected and they're not really sure how to cope with it, and then you experience the depression and anxiety. And then some of the unhealthy coping mechanisms someone could engage in when they do experience not only post-graduation depression, but just depression in general, because this could go along the sides with just like feeling very lack of motivation and also feelings of anxiety. And so a person could commonly overuse technology and spending hours on social media or gaming. So that could be something they're doing to distract themselves from feeling hopelessness or feeling upset about not really knowing where to go in their life. So they start to consume toxic social media or gaming to distract themselves. But in reality, it's not the greatest coping mechanism for their health because they're one distracting themselves from like putting themselves to network with everybody or like applying to jobs, so that could also be detrimental to them. And the second one would be exercising too little or too much. Exercise is good. We're gonna learn that for the healthy coping mechanisms, but sometimes exercising too little could also make you feel not as physically healthy. So then that could like coincide with like how you feel mentally. Or also like exercising too much is a thing as well, right? Like you be distracting yourself or you're like over exercising your body to the point where like you're so exhausted that you tend to not want to do anything else. So it's all about finding like the right balance of being able to do something to like move your body, but not doing it too low or too much. And then the third one is overeating unhealthy foods. And this can also relate to like any regular life as well. We also want to make sure we're like receiving good nutrition for our bodies and that we're having a good diet. But these are something like the common coping mechanisms someone would do if they're like feeling depressed or anxious about something, is that their body tends to want to crave more fatty or like carb overload food. So then they start overeating. And then this last one also is like an unhealthy one as well, since you are like consuming too much alcohol or caffeine, which can be damaging to your liver and also like damaging to like your body itself. And this could also put someone at risk for like alcoholism or just being dependent on a stimulant or a depressant. So that these four are like the common unhealthy coping mechanisms. But for the next two slides, we're going to learn about what we can do that are healthier coping mechanisms for depression and anxiety. So some of the healthy coping mechanisms, the first one is it's really open to people who are deciding to want to consider therapy. Now, this may not be the best solution for everybody because others may feel uncomfortable about seeking therapy, or they may not have the right health insurance resources or the financials to receive therapy. So this is like totally up to a person if they're willing to put themselves, because in the end of the day, you may tell someone to go seek therapy, but it's better for someone to choose it for themselves. But this is one of the main things, right? If you're feeling depression and anxiety, the best way to do it is through cognitive behavioral therapy. And this therapist can identify your negative feelings, or they will also like identify steps to make these changes to intervene with your negative feelings and turn it into a more positive one. So if you know that you are experiencing depression, anxiety after graduation, or you know someone else, it's also like okay to refer them to seeking therapy or for yourself. And it's not and it's stigmatizing looks to it, but I think ultimately it will all overall like benefit somebody who are experiencing post-graduation depression and anxiety. And the second one is reconnect with friends. So as we learned earlier, one of the causes for post-graduation depression and anxiety is losing touch with your friends, and then you're having these social changes. But also, if you're able to reconnect with them, either by texting them or calling them, FaceTiming them, even if you can't spend time with them in person, it's just maybe like catching up with them and just talking about what has happened throughout your week or like your month. It's a great way to not only increase your social compatibility and like your need to like have relationships around you, but this is like a way that you can cope with depression and anxiety, because then you have someone you can confide in with, right? You can talk about your concerns and spend time with them to avoid any like loneliness or isolation. The third one is also practicing self-kindness and love. So in reality, we are our own worst critic, and we tend to be very negative and harsh on ourselves when we don't succeed in something that we thought we were supposed to. But being able to take a step back and kind of think about the good things that you have done for yourself. You know, you graduated college, you received your degree, but you're also like in the works of like trying to find a job. But I think, as the effort, like the effort always counts. So you want to talk to yourself in a way that you're like speaking to a friend who's experiencing negative thoughts about themselves. Like you wouldn't want to say negative things to your friend, like, oh, you should feel that way. Like, oh yeah, actually you are that person who is struggling. So, you know, you're not a very great applicant for this job. So you want to talk to yourself as if like someone was telling you how they were feeling, and you'd be more kind to yourself and like give grace. And then the last two healthy coping mechanisms, what I mentioned earlier, is exercise. So exercise is a great way to move your body, but it's also important to find a type of movement that you enjoy. It's hard to exercise continuously or consistently if you are doing exercises or workouts that you do not enjoy doing. So you're more likely to not engage in it anymore. So I would suggest finding something you like doing that could be either like weightlifting, yoga, or swimming, or even just running or walking around your neighborhood is something that you can try to incorporate into your life, not only to cope with the depression, anxiety, but it could benefit your physical health. And just making sure you find balance through everything. And the last one is reflecting on your goals. So in college, we do have a lot of goals in mind, right? We tend to want to do well in our classes, pass our exams, try to secure internship with some on campus or off campus opportunity. But after graduation, we may not be experience a lot of time management organization skills anymore because we have days to ourselves and it's on our own schedule. So making sure you reflect on what goals you want to achieve during your time after graduation, and you make sure you're creating realistic goals as well. Realistic goals means that you're able to be aware that you can achieve that through specific steps that you can take. If you end up making an unrealistic goal and having high expectations, then you tend to put a lot more pressure on yourself. You start stressing more. And if you don't end up reaching that goal, then that only increases your feelings of like like loss of self-worth and like guilt and like feelings of shame. So you want to make sure you're making these goals that you know that are going to be not too easy, but a little bit challenging, but attainable for you to complete, that will benefit your future. And so we're going to move on to some of the resources that could potentially help you overcome post-graduation depression and anxiety. Or these are just great resources on campus in general. We have the UCI Alumni Center. So they offer membership, chapters, support, and student success for UCI alumni. I know that for the memberships, you have to pay like an annual fee, but you'll also be connected to all the UCI alumni people, and you'll be connected through a network where you can contact them and talk about, hey, like where are you at with your job, or like where did you find this internship? Do you have anyone that you connect me to? So essentially it's kind of like a LinkedIn, but it's only for UCI alumni people. So it's a great way to engage with people who have attended UCI and also like grow your network. The second one is UCI Career Pathways. So what's great about UCI Career Pathways is that graduating students can access Handshake job postings and career fairs for no cost up to a year. So this is go along the lines with people who are interested in taking a gap year and they want to work during that gap year before grad school, or even if you don't want to attend grad school and you're just trying to find work, UCI Career Pathways is a great way for you to find internships or jobs onto the Handshake website. And then most of the time they'll have career fairs every quarter in person. So then you can come on campus if you're local, or if you're interested, you can advocate for yourself, for these recruiters that are going to be here wanting to search for either UCI undergraduates or UCI alumni people. And then lastly, we have SARC, which is Social Science Academic Resource Center. And we have services to meet with a peer consultant like me and other peer consultants on the team for alumni to meet with us. But the only thing is, if you're an alumni, you don't have access to the UCI appointment system anymore. So you have to contact us through email, which is at sark@uci.edu, and we'll do our best to accommodate to your availability and when you can meet with us. So that brings us towards the almost the end of our presentation. But I wanted to ask if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns about the presentation or any resources or any of the information I shared today. And you can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Okay, so it looks like we're not getting any questions, so we're just gonna move on to the next slide. And I wanted to say thank you so much for attending my Sarkcast about post-graduation depression and anxiety. Here's more information about what Sark offers in our social media. We have Instagram. We post almost daily or weekly about upcoming events, about workshops about graduate school, research, or internships. So make sure you give a follow and be able to stay updated with that. And also what's great with the Sark is we have a YouTube channel. So like this presentation itself, I'm recording it. And if you feel that you have missed something and you want to go back to watch a certain slide or what I said, then it's going to be posted on our YouTube channel. And we also have our Facebook that we routinely post sometimes, but we also have that. And then we have our website, which is sark.soci.uci.edu, where we have all of our information about our resources, how to schedule our consultations with a peer consultant, and then information about grad school research or scholarship opportunities. And if you want to give us a call, it'll be at 949-824-8322. But thank you so much for attending my Sarkcast. And if you have any questions, I can stick around and answer them. But you feel free to leave and then be able to finish any midterms or homework assignments that you have. But thank you so much for attending.